Coverage of the state of security in the country. And joining me now to discuss the security situation is a security expert, Bish Johnson. Good to have you join us, Bish Johnson. After we saw the hijack of the NSAS protest, we also witnessed the burning of police stations and public and private property. We have also seen an increase in cases of crime. For example, in some states we've seen rival courts, fights between rival courts. We've seen kidnappings, and we've witnessed armed robbery. But it does seem that, like in all of this, the police is silent. Do you think that there is an undeclared strike by the police force in some states?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me on. I've heard from some quarters that the police seem to be very demoralized. And if that be the case, I think it will have some negative impact in terms of the security situation in the country right now. But I also add that we should not forget that around this time every year, when it's getting towards the end of the year, there's usually a spike in criminal activities as people try to look for means of making money to go home for December. So I can't definitively conclude that the reason why there's a spike in criminal activities now is because maybe the police is demoralized or because the police is silent. It will take much longer than the time period under review for us to be able to draw that conclusion, because every year we have this kind of recurring cycle in which criminal activities spike, especially towards the end of the year.
So you mentioned that you also heard that the police might be demoralized, but we know that there is that connection between security, governance, political stability, even economic progress. So what should we do at this moment? I mean, when we saw what happened during the hijack of the NSAS protest, so what should be done to ensure that the police, they are encouraged or they are inspired to do their jobs, and there is that connection or there is that relation between police and the society?
Well, you see, when these kind of questions are asked, I try to refrain from trying to provide an immediate solution to what is a long-lasting challenge or problem. And that has always been a problem that we've had in this country, is that whenever we have a challenge, we always look for an immediate solution, which is what I consider kicking the can down the road without actually dealing comprehensively and in-depthly with the problem that we face. There is no overnight solution to the security challenge that Nigeria faces. Nigeria must do the hard work of restructuring its security architecture in such a way that it is more effective to serve its people, because it's quite obvious and very clear that the security architecture that we have in place right now is not serving us well. So we have to look at not just only the immediate, but we need to look at the midterm and the long-term solutions to the challenges that we face. And I am more particularly concerned about the long-term solution to the challenges that we face. We can't apply very simplistic solution to what is very, very complicated challenge. And that is where we get it wrong. Because every year we do the same thing and then we end up with the same result each year. So we must have to do things differently. And the way we do things differently is to sit down, bring in all the experts, let us sit down, figure out a way to restructure our security architecture, which, by the way, includes reforming the police so that they have enough manpower, they have enough resources, we improve their working conditions, and we train them and equip them properly so that they can better deliver to us.
We've also seen that the Minister of Communications have now been summoned by the National Assembly in relation to security. They are looking at the connection between ICT and security. And many people think that that might also be some sort of gap in how we secure the country. What do you make of that?
Well, it all boils down to the security architecture, the kind of security that we have in place. We are still policing Nigeria. We face 21st century challenge, but we are applying 17th century solutions to what is 21st century challenge. The criminal activities right now is moving away from your regular somebody stealing goat or stealing fowl. A lot of criminal activities are taking place in the cyberspace, and they are causing more damage and more harm in the cyberspace than ordinarily a local thief who goes to steal goat with cause. So by inviting the Minister for Communication to look at the correlation between the cyberspace and criminal activity, I think that's in the wrong direction. It should have been done a long time ago, because we've seen this coming from a very long time ago, and some of us have been speaking out on that criminal activities is moving more towards the cyberspace. And that is one of the areas that any police reform should equally look into. How do we equip the police, build laboratories for them so that they're able to conduct ballistic testings, forensic investigations, and cyber investigations, track phone numbers, track IP addresses, and move investigation in the direction of technology.
So we cannot deny that there is some sort of strain between the police force and the community that they police, especially because of the protests and how the protests turned out because of the hijack by hoodlums. Is there something that can be done to ensure that that strain is fixed, and then police can see the society as partners, and the society can see the police officers also as partners?
Well, that has always been an ongoing challenge, and it has been a long challenge for a very long period of time in this country. There's that credibility gap between the police and the community. And so long as that deficit remains, it becomes a much more bigger challenge. How do we address the challenge? As I mentioned earlier, we don't have an overnight solution to some of all these problems, because these problems were created over a long period of time. So it's going to take a little bit of time for us to be able to dismantle those challenges. Now, we can start now, definitely. We can start now trying to find a way to bridge the gap between the community and the police, so the community can see the police as part of them, because it's only when that is done that both the police can do their job and the community will benefit from the dividends of having effective policing. So how do you begin? We have to begin by, first and foremost, creating that awareness. And this is where the government has to come in.